In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite spells for combat situations in Baldur's Gate 3's current version of Early Access. I'll do cantrips in another video. Now keep in mind that this is my personal top 10, it's not going to be everyone's, but I'd be willing to bet that the majority of these spells will be on most players' lists. I did try to put these spells in some form of order, but it's harder to do than you'd think considering that many of these spells are situational. But regardless, all 10, or should I say 11, of these spells have proven to be extremely useful for myself on all of my playthroughs, and you may want to consider bringing some of them along for yours. For more Baldur's Gate 3 content, hit that subscribe button. Links to the Got Dice t-shirts will be below, along with my Twitter and my Discord server. Let's get right into it. Number 10. Grease. Grease is a level 1 conjuration spell that covers the ground in Grease, and it's available for the Wizard class, Eldritch Knight Fighter, and the Arcane Trickster Rogue. Grease has a solid range of 60 feet, and its radius is large enough to cover the entirety of most pathways. The reason why this spell makes the top 10 list is because it offers your party some area control, and potentially AoE damage at the cost of just a level 1 spell slot. Enemies that run through the grease will have their movement speed reduced to half, and they'll also be forced to do a dexterity saving throw, of which if they fail, they'll end up prone for 1 turn. So not only are you reducing the distance that an enemy can move on their turn, but many times you're outright stopping them in place. To top it off, don't forget that grease is of course flammable, so combo grease with items, spells, or cantrips that burn, such as Firebolt, or you can cast grease over something that's already burning, such as a torch, and now you've lit the entire area on fire, dealing AoE burn damage. Other spells that serve a similar purpose to grease and can actually be a bit more powerful include web or spike growth, but both of those spells will use up one of your level 2 spell slots, and they both also require your character's concentration, and grease doesn't. And because of the ease of grease's use, it takes the number 10 spot. Number 9. Mirror Image. Mirror Image is a level 2 illusion spell that creates 3 illusionary duplicates of yourself, distracting attackers. It's available for the Wizard, Warlock, and Trickery domain Cleric. Each of the 3 duplicates will increase your character's armor class by 3, for a total of 9 added AC points when you have all 3 illusions. In Early Access, this basically makes it almost impossible for an enemy to hit you. This spell will remain active for up to 10 turns, but when your character successfully evades an attack, one of the illusions will disappear. So when you're down to 2 illusions, you'll have a +6 to your armor class. In 1, you'll have a +3, which is still a significant boost. On top of it being just a great defensive spell, it also does not require concentration like other spells in a similar category, such as Blur. When you find yourself in a sticky situation, cast Mirror Image and enjoy not getting hit for likely a couple rounds of combat. But keep in mind that some enemies can do multiple attacks in 1 turn, which will deplete it fairly fast. Number 8 is a boring spell, but also extremely useful, and that is the level 1 enchantment spell for the Cleric class called Bless. Bless will allow you to bless up to 3 creatures, or 4 if you upcast it with a level 2 spell slot. In doing so, will give the blessed creatures a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls, meaning you're more likely to land your attacks, and also a 1d4 bonus to saving throws, which means you're more likely to resist some of your opponent's spells. Bless lasts for up to 10 turns, and it does require concentration, but most of the time I think it's worth having it active. 2 quick tips for Bless. Number 1, cast Bless in turn-based mode before a combat encounter begins, so you don't have to use up one of your turns in combat, and you also don't have to worry about party members being too far away. And number 2, most of the time you're going to want to include your cleric in the Bless, because it will help your cleric maintain concentration, keeping it active for longer durations. Another reason why Bless makes the top 10 is because it's a guaranteed success. It doesn't miss and it can't be resisted. When you look at spells in the same category, such as Bane, which you cast on your opponents can and will resist it many times, and sometimes you may not affect any of the enemies when you cast Bane. Not with Bless though, it's a solid spell to guarantee a buff on you and your party. Number 7, Misty Step. Misty Step is a level 2 conjuration spell that allows you to teleport to an unoccupied space that you can see. This spell is currently available for the Warlock and the Wizard. The distance that you can teleport is up to 60 feet away, and you can absolutely teleport more vertically to higher ground if the situation permits. This can be used for not only just getting completely out of sticky situations, but it can also be used to set up your character in an advantageous spot that enemies will have a hard time getting to. And if you use it to gain high ground, which you should be doing most of the time, you'll get advantage on many of your attacks. What makes Misty Step even better is that it costs a bonus action instead of an action, so you can attack and use Misty Step in the same turn. Really good spell to have on as many characters as you can, and trust me, it will be a game changer more often than you may think. Number 6, Guiding Bolt. Guiding Bolt is a level 1 cleric evocation spell that calls forth a beam of light dealing 4d6 radiant damage, which increases to 5d6 if cast with a level 2 spell slot. This is a really good single target damage for a level 1 or level 2 spell, and if you can get yourself in a position that will give your cleric advantage on their attack, this spell may become the bread and butter of melting down single targets. To top it off, when you hit an enemy with Guiding Bolt, the next attack roll on that enemy, which may be from another party member, will have advantage. This further increases the likelihood of that target having a rough couple rounds of combat. This is one of my most used spells for the cleric in the entirety of early access. Number 5, Magic Missile, but I'm also kind of adding Scorching Ray to the same spot. Magic Missile is a level 1 evocation spell that creates 3 darts of magical force, but if cast with a level 2 spell slot, it will create 4 darts. It's a wizard spell, which of course you can also obtain it by playing as an Eldritch Knight fighter or an Arcane Trickster rogue. Each of these 3 or 4 darts will deal 1d4 plus 1 force damage, which is the least resisted damage of all the damage types, and you have the ability to choose where each specific dart will go. Send all 3 or 4 at one single target, or split them up, which can be super useful to do when there are multiple low health opponents. One great use of Magic Missile is in the hag fight when you need to get rid of multiple illusions. Magic Missile's damage overall can be a bit weak compared to many other spells, but the reason why it makes the top 10 list is because each Magic Missile is guaranteed to hit its target, unless the target is obstructed by another object. In a game where RNG determines if you hit or miss your target, having a spell that you can always rely on is extremely valuable. I'm assuming at some point the Shield Reaction spell will make its way into Baldur's Gate 3, and that will be one of the few ways that an opponent can actually block your missiles. I'm adding Scorching Ray, a level 2 Wizard and Fiend Warlock evocation spell, to the backside of number 5, because Scorching Ray is similar to Magic Missile in that it shoots 3 rays, in this case fire rays, which can also be split to different targets. Scorching Ray, however, can deal more damage as it deals 2d6 fire damage per ray, and it can of course also set flammable things on fire. What it doesn't do though is guarantee that you'll actually hit your target or targets. This spell requires you to do an attack roll for each ray, and therefore you could technically miss them all, which is why Magic Missile is our number 1 of the number 5, if that makes sense. Number 4, Moonbeam. Moonbeam is a level 2 druid evocation spell that calls down a silvery beam of pale light. Any creature that enters the beam or starts its turn in the beam will take 2d10 radiant damage, but if they succeed on a Constitution saving throw, that damage will be cut in half. One thing I noticed with early access is that when you cast it, your targets will actually take damage immediately when it's placed on them, and then when it's their turn in combat, they'll take damage again, and this in turn makes it insanely powerful, probably too powerful, and because of this it may end up being nerfed down the line to be more like the D&D way where the initial cast itself does not deal damage. The Moonbeam does have a smaller radius than many other AoE spells in the game, but in my opinion it can actually work in its favor as you can cast it in very specific areas without wreaking havoc on the entire battlefield. Another powerful aspect of this spell is that you can move the beam on later turns at the cost of your action, but it won't cost you another spell slot. So every turn, if you so choose, you can keep placing it down on different areas of the battlefield, dealing pretty significant damage. It's important to note that Moonbeam does require concentration, so if you're playing as a land druid, you may want to keep your druid in a safer location when casting it. You can always abuse the current hide mechanics and never risk losing concentration. Or if you're a moon druid, cast Moonbeam and then maybe wild shape with your bonus action into a form that has a higher constitution, such as the bear. This is a fun and very powerful spell, just be careful to not go near the beam yourself. Number 3, Healing Word. Healing Word is a level 1 cleric and druid evocation spell that offers a way to heal creatures from a distance. A creature you see will regain 1d4 plus your spellcasting modifier hit points, and if cast with a level 2 spell slot, the healing increases to 2d4 plus your spellcasting modifier. The healing itself isn't really that powerful, so why would it be in the top 3? Well, for starters, Healing Word costs a bonus action as opposed to an action, and it also has a 60-foot range. There's no other spell in early access that can heal a target from so far away and still allow the caster to use their action for something else on the same turn. Now, you might not always get the best heals from it, but since it doesn't use your action, even if you do get unlucky with the RNG from the heal, your turn is still not completely wasted. Where Healing Word becomes a true game changer is in its ability to get targets that have been knocked unconscious back in the fight, and all from a distance. If one of your party members goes down, you'll likely be able to cast Healing Word on them to get them back up and prevent them from dying outright. Healing Word has been essential to all of my playthroughs, and I honestly can't imagine a playthrough where I don't have at least one character that can cast it. This spell has saved my party far too many times. Number 2, Shatter. Shatter is a level 2 warlock and wizard evocation spell that generates a painfully intense ringing noise, dealing 3d8 thunder damage to creatures and objects within its radius. Creatures that succeed on a Constitution saving throw will take half the damage. The reason why Shatter makes the number 2 spot is because its radius is quite large for the amount of AoE damage that this spell can potentially do. In my opinion, Shatter is the ultimate AoE damage spell in early access. If you can get 3, 4, 5, or maybe even 6 enemies grouped into one area, Shatter not only guarantees at least some damage on them, but it will likely outright kill a few of them, especially the smaller creatures with less constitution such as goblins. Being able to severely reduce a group's total hit points and likely take a few of them out in the process will absolutely change the tide of a battle to be in your favor. I highly recommend that you have at least one character, either warlock or wizard, or even better, a couple characters, which is kind of OP, that have Shatter at the ready for when a situation arises where your enemies are grouped up. Number 1. And not everyone's going to agree with me here, but with my personal early access experience, there's really no other spell that can take this spot, and that spell is Thunderwave. What other spell could I possibly use on bards and cute little squirrels to the same effect? I mean, come on, guys.
It shall be done. Detonator!
Thunderwave is a level 1 evocation spell that releases a wave of thunderous force. Wizards, Eldritch Knight fighters, Arcane Trickster rogues, and druids will all have access to this spell, and I highly recommend getting it with as many party members as you can for the ultimate playthrough. The wave of thunderous force will deal 2d8 thunder damage, which increases to 3d8 if cast with a level 2 spell slot. And of course, let's not forget that this spell also pushes creatures and objects pretty far away. If an opponent succeeds on a Constitution saving throw, however, they'll only take half damage and not be pushed. And that can happen quite a lot, which is why many others would not put it as their number 1. But forget the half damage and forget the chance of it not actually pushing an enemy. When you do get a successful Thunderwave, it can literally completely turn the course of a hopeless battle into a battle where you'll find yourself screaming, "Let's go, baby," out the window. In a game with so much verticality, having a spell that can make multiple enemies go flying off a cliff is invaluable. Of course, it takes a little bit of planning and good tactics to set your party up for good thunder waves, but I can't think of another spell that has actually completely saved my ass. I'm talking about encounters where there was no way I would have won if I didn't pull off a successful thunder wave. You can one-shot some of the toughest enemies in the game with this spell, or make it so that they have a long trek to get back to you. And if you miss, well, at least you still did some damage, and you better Misty Step to get the hell out of there. Like I said though, some enemies will succeed on their constitution saving throws, especially the big boys. So sometimes it's just not going to really do its job, and because of that, I think everyone doesn't use this spell like I do. But its potential power and the fact that it can be one of the most fun and humorous spells in the game makes it win the #1 spot. Now, there are many other great spells in early access, such as Hold Person, Flame Blade for the druid, and Jump, to name a few, but the 10 that I put in this video were the ones that really stood out for my playthroughs, so just keep that in mind. Definitely let me know below your experience with some of these spells and what your favorite spells are so we can see. I would love to see that. Also, yep, here we go. Here goes the outro. Yep. If you guys ended up enjoying this video, please hit that like, comment, and subscribe. You don't hit the comment button, Wolf. You don't hit the comment button, but hit the like and subscribe button, and then comment. I really would appreciate it. It's a huge help to the channel. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.